Hello and welcome to Chapter 8 of the Getting Started with Rendering and Shading with Houdini Mantra workshop. And in this video, I wanted to talk about the rounded edge shader, what it does, how to set it up. We discuss what effect it provides, how can we tweak it, and we start creating our first procedural terrainware material by mixing two shaders using the mask that we have generated with our rounded edge shader, controlling it with the noise. So let's get started. Let's talk about the rounded edge shader. So as you can see, I have a simple scene where we can see only the geometry I have exported from CAD and the camera, which has the focal length of 300. So we kind of have the zoomed in effect, almost like an orthographic looking shot. Okay, so I want to add the environment lights. I'll just hold down the control left click. Nothing happened because obviously, as we discussed before, it's only the lights color of white. But I'll go here, go to the Houdini default HDRIs that come with the every installation of Houdini. And in this particular case, I'll be using the Skylit Garage. I press accept. Then if I select the my geometry again, it's just a bit of a quirk again. If you add the environment light, sometimes the shader disappears, but it's fine in our case. Okay, so next I go to the material. We start typing principal shader, left click, drag and drop, and we start working. First of all, I want to make this metallic because this is metallic, and I think I want to make it slightly darker, and maybe increase roughness a bit, so it's kind of slightly rough material. So I don't want to use point color because we don't need any information whatsoever. And we go to the render view, press render. This render was without the shader, and let's see how it will look with the principal shader. Let me just go and see our settings, pixel samples 3. Okay, this will work for now. Okay, this looks a bit dark, so I think I will increase the intensity slightly, ever so slightly. Maybe 1.5, maybe 2. Okay, this looks this looks okay. Let's go back to our materials and let's finally talk about the rounded edge shader. Now, I'll just hold down the shift, left click, drag select to isolate this particular area of interest and increase our Vex Builder material context. Okay, so again, first I'll hit down the tab or right click, I prefer tab, and start typing rounded, and we can see the rounded edge. So you might already know, but maybe you not already know it. You can drag and drop the mask generators onto our geometry, and it will showcase what is happening. And immediately we have the results, and something is definitely happening. Essentially, as you might already have guessed, there is the edges that are being highlighted. Now, how is this being controlled? If we select our rounded edge, as you can see, we have the radius, we have the cusp angle. And first, I'll tweak down the radius. I'll make it, let's say, 5 times less, so 0.002. Let's see how that looks. Okay, this maybe we can do 0.03. Okay, this looks perfect. Now, what is happening is that every hard edge that is harder than 30 degrees of angle are getting masked. If we tweak the angle and make it less, as you can see, pretty much changes how the angles are being calculated and evaluated. If I increase the angle to, let's say, 85, we can see that the the cutouts, the booleans, which have like let me just showcase. So we are talking about the same thing. So these booleans that have been highlighted previously, they are getting cut from the mask. And if I increase it even further, the angles that were 90 degrees, which pretty much are everywhere in our geometry, like this angle changes 90, this angle changes 90. Virtually all the angles, sharp angles, are 90 degrees or more. So they are not being evaluated because the cusp angle is too big. So 30 usually works okay. Obviously, you can tweak it to your liking. And there is a setting in the principal shader in the tab that is called Bumpin Normals. As you can see, there is round edge radius, which is this setup here. So you can we can go to principal shader, drag and drop, and let's give it a number of seconds to evaluate our geometry to begin with, to see how different it will look. So as we already know, the radius of 0.003 works pretty well for our geometry. So I'll hit the snap so we can then see the difference, and I'll write here 0.003. Of course, you don't need first to drop the round edge radius to see how much radius is okay for our geometry or not, because I just made it for purposes to showcase how the mask is actually working and what it does under the hood. Okay, as we can see, something is definitely happening. I'll make another snap, and let's just see how different is that. So if I drag it to the left, as you can see, these edges are getting these effects of being beveled or filleted, however you want to call it. So it helps the reflections to catch more light, so it doesn't look extremely sharp. This looks like no one ever machines the metals in such a way, right? It's just unrealistic. It's like a knife sharp, razor sharp pot. And here, obviously, we can see that our nuts and bolts are showing up much better. They are getting more edge treatments, and the insides are getting the reflections that we need. So as you can see, it's very, very helpful for rendering purposes. If you don't want to fillet or bevel every single edge of your geometry, this can be a great help. Now, of course, the effect breaks if it's too much. Let's say we have a 0 or 1. Essentially, I'm increasing the effect 3 times. And as we will see in a moment, I mean, I hope so. Why isn't it rendering? Let me restart. Oh, my bad. we have to go back to our current snap. Totally forgot. If you are previewing your previous snap, you will not see the render updating. Anyway, as we can see already, the effect starts to break. It looks kind of mushy. It looks unrefined. Basically, breaks the effect that we are going for, and our geometry looks, instead of like machined metal piece, it looks like some sort of weird plastic. I don't know. It's not good. Let's leave it at that. So I'll get it back to 0.003. As you can see, it becomes better. Now, what I want to do now is actually stop the render, disable the round edge radius here, and get back to our rounded edge mask. Now, drag and drop is here, press the render again, and what I'm gonna do is control the radius using the noise. Let me see what happens. Let me show you what happens actually. Again, we drop the rest position for our noise evaluation. Otherwise, noise will not know how to generate the noise based on our geometry. Next, I'm going for anti-alias noise. Of course, you can use any noise you want, but I want to get the effect of chipped metal kind of slightly with slight turn wear indentations. You'll see. Connect the rest position to position, and the noise we connect to radius. And voila, something is definitely happening, but it's not what we want, obviously. So what is happening is that noise generates, as we already know, values from usually from 0 to 1. Anti-alias noise, I think it generates from negative 0.5 to positive 0.5, something around that. So what we get is radius. At some points, radius is, as you can see, it's rather small, but in other points, the radius is like 0.5. And in our case, we are working with the values of 0.003. So not a problem. We can decrease the amplitude by, let's say, 10 times. Let's start with 0.1. Okay, that starts helping. Again, let's decrease it to 0.001. Well, that's not obviously a lot, so let's say 0.2. Okay, and to get the effect that it kind of goes chipped and weird and whatnot, I'll increase the roughness. All right, something is definitely happening. I'll increase the frequency to make it repeat a bit more, and as you can see, yep, it does look almost what we need already. So I'll get the amplitude smaller, even more. Okay, so as you can see, the irregularities of the radius here and here are showing up, and if we get this rounds n, which means the round normals, into the base normals, and we drag and drop our principal shaders with new normals on our geometry in the preview, we will see that our radius indeed does have irregularities, and our geometry looks kind of chipped. Okay, the effect isn't extremely pronounced just yet, so I think what we're gonna do is increase the amplitude to, let's say, 0.7. I'll just snap. Let's say 0.7, and the previous snap looks like this, and the current situation. Okay, we definitely have a more of the effect going through, as you can see here, here, here. Let's get back to our rounded edge actually, and I'll drag and drop it here again. So I want the rounded edge to be a little bit more refined, and actually cusp angle slightly less so we can see the effect a bit more. Didn't affect too much because most of my geometry essentially has the edges of 90 degrees. Anyway, so if we increase the samples, it means that our radius will get more refined. I mean, the sampling of the radius will get more refined. But keep in mind, it will increase the time to compute the principal shader at the end. So, naturally, when we don't have the radius, like if I hold down the Y key and delete the connection, we have to have some initial radius, and our initial radius is 0.003. And this noise generates somewhere between 0 and what looks like 0.3, maybe 0.4. So what I want to do is add initial radius, so we have essentially rounded edges that are getting chipped on top. So what I'm going to do is, you can just type add, but using just add, we will have to add a constant on top. So I'll just add another node, which does just that, add C, which says add constant. I'll drop it here, and the constant will be 0.002. So to our noise, let me just showcase. I'll create another snap. To our noise that was generating some data, we are adding radius of 0.002, and the result is 0.002 plus adding the noise result, which in our case actually goes from negative to positive. So essentially, it sometimes even creates the sharp, super sharp angle. Somewhere it creates the chipped effect. So I'll drag and drop principal shader, and let's see what we got. And indeed, as you can see already, we have the effect in our rounded edges that the weapon, in our case, has been in use because obviously it has been under the effects of tear and wear on its edges. So this is the effect you can get just with rounded edges. Now, you might be thinking, if we have the rounded edge at our disposal that generates some kind of mask, not just normals, maybe we can create a mix of two different shaders, and you will be right. So let me showcase how to do just that. Again, I'll hit the top, start typing mix, and we have the layer mix. I'll delete this connection and connect. Let me make this window a bit bigger so you can see better. Now we connect this layer to layer A, and first of all, I'll drag and drop the layer mix. And this one is the base color of dark. Give it a second. Of dark gray and roughness of 3 to 1. I think we can make it 0.4. And then I hold down the Alt key, left click, drag and drop. And this layer will be a lighter color with less of the roughness. And we connect this layer. I'm holding down middle mouse just to navigate through the node view. And we connect this to B, layer B. Okay, we have two layers. What I want to go and do is enable round edge radius here and here. But here I'll make it 0.2 so it's different. And in our layer mix, I will collapse this one because this takes too much space. Don't you agree? All right, finally. So our mask, for some reason it creates displacement. Okay, we can say use A, do not mix anything. We don't have any displacement, so this is why it takes so much time. I'll just drag and drop the rounded edge. For some reason it takes more time than I expected. All right, finally we have our mask evaluated, and then I'll get our mask into the alpha. And when I drag and drop layer mix now on our geometry, you will see that we have our principal shader 1, the roughness 0.4, mixed with the principal shader 2 with roughness 0.13 and lighter color. And we will have the different materials, as in almost like a procedural tear and wear, going in our geometry. Let's give it a couple of seconds to evaluate the render. Okay, this starts rendering, and hopefully we will start seeing the effect, especially here. Okay, yep. There we go. I think it takes this much time because we increased the samples, but no, it's okay. It's actually okay. So there you go. We have created a mix of two materials. Effectively, you could make it non-metallic, sort of like dark paint This could be metallic, sort of like the essentially the metal comes through the paints. Let me just show you how this might look. If we decrease the shader of metallic to 0, obviously CPU rendering is not extremely fast, as you can see, so the more CPU cores you have, the better. All right. So yeah, as you can see, the effect is a bit more pronounced because we have a kind of a rough non-metal plastic-ish thing going with a bit more shiny and metal polished thing coming through on the edges. So there you go. We just mixed two different materials procedurally and created the procedural tear and wear on our weapon. So there you go. This is how you get started with procedural tear and wear. In next videos, I will showcase additional utility nodes that will help us define dust occlusion, other curvature-based information, just like we already have done with the Bevel shader. I made a standalone Bevel shader video for the reason because it can create fake bevels with a rounded edge shader, and we can use the masking of two different layers of our principal shaders. This is why I made this into a different video. But everything that we have learned so far will be extremely useful in our next setups going forward when we will use other render time masking generators. So there we go. Play with the rounded edge, understand and maybe create your simple setups of your geometry. Play with the radius, play with the noise, which as you have already seen, makes a vast difference to the effects and can generate very interesting looking geometry. And this is important going forward for our procedural shading. And hopefully this is not super intimidating. If you didn't catch everything, you just rewatch the video or try for yourself different setups. With that said, thanks for watching and see you in the next videos. If you find the video useful, hit the like button. If you don't want to miss anything that we have in the making and from this workshop going forward, hit the subscribe button. See you later and have a nice day.